Hey everybody, this is Craig Garver. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I have a very cool guitarist from the West Coast, I think, sort of West Coast, right?
Definitely the West Coast.
Definitely
Yes.
the West Coast with Jamie Stillway. And Jamie's not only a really talented guitar player, but she's very cool. I actually get to hang out with her at NAMM. We waited online together. We were both so hungry that we ate what was probably, I don't know, maybe the worst salad I've ever had in 56 years. And we enjoyed it. That's how hungry we were. It was like, we were just talking. It was like I probably could have gone out to the parking lot and grazed on something there and next to a spot or something and eaten the same thing. But anyway, Jamie's really cool. Couple of quick announcements. I want to thank Mark Goldenberg and Eric Sky, who I also met at NAMM. Those two guys, very cool. And for connecting Jamie and I. And make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe and subscribe to the audio and video of the show. Let me tell you real quickly about Jamie. Jamie Stillways and making her mark in the world of acoustic fingerstyle guitar. She's toured nationally and internationally. She's an in-demand instructor. Since 2005, she's self-released 4 albums, and her style of playing has brought comparisons to Leo Kottke, Django Reinhardt, Bill Frisell, Reverend Gary Davis, except Jamie could see, and others. She's a really great guitarist. I'm glad she's on the show, and she's a cool woman. So thank you, Jamie. I appreciate your time.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
And she was very tolerant when I did the first intro and got her name wrong, which is embarrassing. So
I wasn't even going to
anyway,
tell anybody that you
I'm
did.
full disclosure here, man. So how'd you first get started in the music business? And like, what was your first break, if you want to call it a break?
Well, it's so, it's like, I would never say that anything was a break.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure how I'm going about being a musician right now. I'm still figuring it out day to day.
I think that's the nature of the business for everybody right now.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So, I thought, so I lived in Denver right after college when I was like, oh, I want to be a musician, but I had no idea how to be a musician. And I got a job organizing sheet music for a company that put together wedding bands. And I was like, this is it.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way. So there's one break.
Like when you played guitar though, at that point, I mean, we didn't just start playing. When did you start playing music?
Well, I don't know if you count when they used to have music in elementary school. So,
oh, wow.
I played the recorder, and then I learned how to play basic piano on one of those electric sort of wheezing organs that you put on a desktop.
Right.
And then I played alto saxophone in band.
Oh, you were the band chick.
And then I quit in eighth grade.
Wow.
So 8th grade is when I switched from saxophone to guitar.
What prompted that?
I have no idea, really. It's just, I don't know. It's 8th grade when you go from middle school to high school. There's things change in your life and you're like, I don't want to be in band in high school. That sounds outrageously dumb. But now you see everybody who kept playing horns their whole life and they're so good. You're like, oh, if only I had not quit.
And where was this? This wasn't in Denver, was it? Or was it?
This was in Minnesota.
Is that where you're from, Minnesota?
Sort of, yeah. I was born in California, and then I spent the majority of my formative years in Minnesota.
A lot of good musicians there. Do you know Greg Koch, or Koch, I think his last name's pronounced?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he's from there. Okay, so tell the story. So you move out to Denver. You're doing something with a publishing company with sheet music. And then what happened? Did you start playing out? When did you start playing gigs?
I started playing gigs shortly after I moved to Portland, which was in 2002. So I hated playing gigs. I had a friend who would always encourage me to sit in, and I would get nervous. And at the time I was playing with finger picks, and my fingertips would be so sweaty I couldn't play with finger picks on. So anyway, it's sort of a roundabout story because I majored in film studies. I graduated from college. I hated film studies. I was like, there's no way I want to do this. I want to play guitar for my life. Went to Denver, organized sheet music. I got a job at the Denver Folklore Center, and then eventually somebody had referred me to teach guitar lessons, and that's when I started teaching guitar when I was, 21. And then ever since then, it's just been this sort of ragtag approach to making it happen. And here we are today.
Did you study guitar like someplace, or are you all self-taught?
I took classical lessons in high school.
Oh, wow.
And then I took lessons in college from Kenny Sultan. I don't know if you know who he is. He's this great blues and ragtime finger picker in Santa Barbara. And I took.
Is he related to Chasm Sultan by any chance? Oh,
I don't know.
Bass player on the East Coast. Anyway.
Yeah. So I have taken a lot of lessons and studied with a lot of different teachers, but I didn't go to school for music.
Right.
So.
When did you meet Eric? When you moved to Portland?
Yeah, we met it's funny because he was just featured in the Fretboard Journal, and I got interviewed for that article, and he was asking how I met Eric. So this story is now fresh in my mind where I told it. We met in the year 2013 at the Healdsburg Guitar Festival. And it's funny because I had heard of Eric for years. We had both heard of each other because, Portland's not a huge scene.
Yeah.
And it's like almost all fingerstyle guitar players have heard of the other fingerstyle guitar players, especially if they're in the same town as you. So yeah, we met back then, and we just started working together this past year. So.
But you play together a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was more of like, let's, eat some dinner and then hang out and then play fiddle tunes. So that's, why that's a unique duo, is that we're two fingerstyle guitar players using flat picks.
Yeah.
Fiddle tunes.
Okay, so, all right. So you grew up mostly in Minnesota, then you moved to Denver, then you moved to Portland.
Ish. I mean, I went to school in the middle in Santa Barbara in California.
Okay. And you're not in Portland now, though?
No, I just recently, 5 months ago, moved out of Portland. I live on a tiny island off the coast of Seattle in the Puget Sound.
That's right. You had told me that. I thought that was really cool. What made you do that? Besides that you hate people. No, I'm just kidding. I want to be as far away. I want to be as far away.
Well, it's so funny. It's like I had been wanting to move out of Portland for a really long time. And I grew up in the country in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So just a lot of things lined up, and it seemed like an opportunity was presenting itself. And I was like, well, I'll give this a try. So
good for you. How do you like it?
Oh man, I love it.
Really?
Wow. Oh yeah. I was like, Craig's going to ask me like, what do I do? And I'm going to be like, wow, I just watch birds all day, and I sit quietly, and I don't listen to much music, and I play guitar, and it's just,
is that really what you do pretty much? So it's very minimalist sort of.
Yes, I live in a 196 square foot cabin.
I want to talk to you about the Bose S1, which is an amazing speaker for acoustic guitars that I've been playing lately. The S1 has two separate channels. It has one for your guitar and then another one for a microphone. And then there's a third channel you can use for a looper or for backing tracks that you could access by Bluetooth or through a 1/8 inch plug. And the S1s are also very easy to carry. It's got an easy to grab top handle, and absolutely anyone can tote it around. And it's also rechargeable for up to 11 hours. The S1 was specifically designed to optimize the sound of your acoustic guitar on acoustic guitar gigs. The guitar and mic channels each have separate tone, volume, and reverb controls, and there's also a proprietary tone match switch which restores and optimizes the natural sound of your acoustic guitar, which, as you know, is typically the biggest problem with acoustic amps. Now, I tested the S1 myself, and the tone, volume, and reverb controls sound great, and they're very responsive. You can position the S1 in 4 different ways. You can tilt it back so you broadcast out to an audience, or you could put it horizontally, vertically, or on a stand. And the cool thing is the S1 has a Bose accelerometer, so it automatically adjusts the EQ and optimizes the sound for whichever one of these 4 positions you're using. The S1 also happens to be the best Bluetooth speaker that Bose makes, which is pretty compelling since Bose is known for the quality of their Bluetooth speakers. So effectively, you have an acoustic guitar amp, a PA, and a killer Bluetooth speaker all in one. And the bottom line is this. If you're an acoustic guitar player, there's absolutely nothing out there that sounds this good and this big that's also easy to carry and battery powered. As far as the Bluetooth speaker goes, I've used it many times here at home for family barbecues, and the sound is so good, my kids wind up arguing over who gets to play the music they want. You know, it's literally like having a full stereo system out on your patio. You can use the S1 for DJing, tailgating, or whatever you want. Before this, you'd have to spend a bunch of money on loads of different speakers and pedals to get the same thing the S1 does on its own. On top of that, it looks great just like all Bose devices do. And besides whatever money back guarantee you get from wherever you buy the S1, Bose also warranties the S1 for 2 years for any kind of defects in materials or performance. For more information and to find out where to get your own S1, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/S1. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/S1. Get the S1. It's outstanding. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the Tampa Bay area without having to deal with pushy realtors? Then make sure you connect with West Florida Real Estate. West Florida Real Estate has helped over 300 homeowners and investors buy and sell their properties over the last 5 years. Their service is outstanding, just like back in the days when there was actually service in the service business, and you'll never have to deal with any kind of sales junk when you're working with them. For more information, email Ann with an E at westfloridarealestate.com. That's ANNE at westfloridarealestate.com. If you're enjoying this show and you'd like to support it, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. And for information on advertising, visit everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise.
Oh my God. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
You seem pretty mellow, but no, you didn't seem like, I would envision, like if I didn't know you, I would think you were like meditating all day because you'd have to be really into quiet and stillness. But I don't claim to know you, but I mean, you're not, I mean, you're pretty easy to talk to and you're not bashful to talk.
So what's the question? Do I meditate all day?
Yeah. I mean, so how do you do that? I mean, what the hell? That's pretty wild.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I just love silence. And I think if we get into a discussion about where city static came from, this will all make sense.
Okay. Let's talk about that right now because, well, let me ask another question first.
Okay.
Each of your records are really different. In fact, let me just pull them up here. Jamie's still way. All right. So each of them are really different. And they have actually this first one, Melva Hess. That's a pretty funny name. But all your records are different, right? And that includes your last one, which was City Static, which I absolutely love. When I listened to it, and I listened to it like 3 or 4 times, it was so good. It's kind of like, to me, and I told you this, it sounds like a soundtrack. Like you could put that in to any, you could find various parts of your own life or just things you're watching. And like one could be a drama thing. One could be a, just walking across the field thing. It was just really, and I'm not a guy that listens and enjoys a lot of sort of like ambient music like that, but I really loved it. It was like, it was great. I listened to it like literally 3 or 4 times. So what's going to determine the theme or the type of music in any given record? It's just like what's going through your head at that point, or do you have specific things you write for? Or
yeah, it's funny because recently I was talking to a friend I think this was like right before I put out City Static, and I was thinking about the albums that I had already done. And so Mellow Hess came out when I was like 26, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my first one, you know, and I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. And I just had written these songs and I wanted all my friends to be on it. So it's, you know, just different ensembles on every track. And then
Whoever played drums is really
yeah.
that guy was killing it, or gal, whoever that was, like,
Yeah,
killer
he's a
drummer.
great drummer.
Yeah.
And so then my next album, I started working more with the upright bass and drum trio, the same drummer. And so then I call that my second album, Winter Rings. I call it my jam band party album, even though like it's not even that. But that was like, I will probably never approach those tempos again in my life.
Why?
If you listen to it. It just feels, you know, it just feels fast and kind of showy to me in a way that I don't really actually feel is true to me anymore.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough.
And then my third album was just quiet solo acoustic guitar, all live in one take.
Wow.
And then I did City Static. So as I was saying to my friend, I was like, oh, my first album, I was like, oh, that came from my heart. Like, and then the second one was my ego. And then the third one was my, like, a brainy thing I did. And then City Static was just like, I don't know, felt like the truest one that was none of the above or all of it but not, I don't know. So
I love that record. So what was behind all that stuff? So how come did you intentionally write it like that? Like, I'm sure you didn't sit down and say, hey, let me make like a movie soundtrack, but
no,
why did it come out like that? I gotta be not the only person that said that.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's what most people say. So that came from sitting really still and quiet in Portland. So I was still in the city. And also, I sort of finished that album. I had turned 40, and for my 40th birthday, I decided to give myself a birthday present of 6 months of not drinking. And so during that
present
time,
or punishment?
Present. Like, the punishment was the drinking. It turned out I wasn't feeling super great in the last couple of months of drinking. So so suddenly I was like, I had a lot more time and my head was a lot more clear. And so I think it all sort of coincided. So that in that 6 months, it's like I got an electric guitar, I got into pedals, I quit drinking, I sat still, and, you know.
And this is what came out. I'll tell you, it's a great record. I like it. I mean, all your records are great, but I really enjoyed this one the most. I resonated with that. So let me ask you this. Did you go back? What was your first, did you go back to drinking? Like, what was your first drink? Like, you haven't gone back.
I haven't gone back.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know you. I don't even know who you are now.
I know, right?
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so it's funny because I did that and I didn't realize, you know, how that would change things. Or so I was like 6 months, and then I got to 6 month mark and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a whole year and see what that feels like, you know, have a sober Thanksgiving for like the first time in 20 years. And then I just then the next year I was like, I'm actually just going to keep going. And so like, I just keep not drinking, and it's been
good for you.
Like 3.5 years now. So
did you do that because you needed to go get sober, or just like you just wanted to experiment? Or, I mean, if you're comfortable asking, if you're not, that's totally cool.
Oh, totally. I love talking about this. I just did it as like, I kind of, you know, I can remember December 2016 is the last month that I was drinking, and like I would have like it was just an interesting thing where like I was gonna do my my first acoustic guitar magazine published a transcription of one of my songs that
That's great.
month, and and I was going to go do a video, like an acoustic guitar session. And I had like maybe like 5 days of not super drinking, because I was like, I don't know, just starting not to feel good. And then I drank. And then this was the week before I went down to do that video. And I suddenly recognized like how full of self-doubt I was, like when
after you
the
had to
next
drink.
morning. Yeah. And I had never,
Oh.
it's like having the little break before that and then drinking and then feeling the after effects. I was like, oh wow, I didn't recognize how hard I was on myself, you know. And so that was a super illuminating experience for me.
Yeah, I
It was
give
like,
you a lot of
whoa,
credit.
it was like suddenly there was like a different voice, like a very negative voice in my head. And I was like, this is not helping me right now.
Yeah, that never helps
So
you.
yeah. And so, and for me, I just, you know, I, you know, I never thought that it really affected me. I drank a lot. I would drink at gigs, you know, and just, I was like, I thought it was fine until and then I was like, oh, actually, I think this affects me more than I think I'm admitting to myself.
Good for
So,
you. That's really, you know, it's weird when you realize that something you're doing affects you. It's a weird thing, because it's like you don't know how that happens, right?
yeah.
This is like nothing compared to that, but I had an infection a while ago. I never get sick, thank God. I never take pills. I'm just, you know, kind of a healthy guy. I take vitamins and shit. So the doctor gives me a steroid pack, and I'm like, that doesn't sound good, whatever the hell you're giving it to me for. And like, oh no, this will really help get rid of the infection. I'm like, you know, I'll be open. I don't want to be just closed-minded just because. And I'm watching a movie with my wife 3 days later, and I started crying, and I said, what the is going wrong? It was like, it wasn't like an emotional part of the movie. It was like, it was a puppy or something. And I started crying, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I realized those steroids, and that was it. So it was like such a weird thing, recognizing a trigger to something else that this isn't who I am. And it was just weird.
Yeah.
That was nutty.
Yeah,
Well,
it's crazy. I mean, especially in this day and age, there's so many things we can ingest, or that like doctors tell us to take, or whatever, or things that are normal, like drinking is like so accepted. And it's like, wow, actually, for some of us, it's like that can super affect you. So
yeah, and the last thing you need, no matter what you're doing for a living, is that negative self-talk in your head, man.
oh
That
man, yeah.
is so damaging. I mean, it's like,
Oh, yeah. So
I don't care what
anyway.
you do. Yeah, I've had enough of that in my life. So good for you. I'm really happy. It sounds like it was a really smart thing for you to do.
Oh yeah, it's so funny. It's like I don't miss it at all. And I kind of thought I would, when I just was like, I'm just going to take 6 months off. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't miss it. I sleep better.
That's great.
I'm much clearer headed. You know, it's just my emotions stay more balanced.
That is so important, especially when you work for yourself, especially, man. You got to have like, yeah. So now, how has that changed you musically?
Well, I just really like silence and space and slowness. You know, it's like suddenly I'm just, yeah.
How did you put up with me for 30 seconds, let alone like 35 minutes? Because I don't shut up pretty much, and you like silence and space.
Well, it was fascinating to meet you. You might recall that like we met at the very same place 2 days in a row.
It was almost creepy, actually, wasn't it?
Let's not forget.
Yes, it was kind of.
It was like a wormhole. It was like, did any time pass? Are we still in the same spot? Because I have honestly never like walked down. Like that's like the only time.
Yeah, me too.
In my NAMM show history that I've ever even been in that hallway.
Yeah, same with me. That
Twice.
was it. That's so funny. Wow. So are you Okay, so I mean, this album is still relatively new, but for your next one, is the way you're approaching it different now that you've stopped drinking than before, or do you think it's different?
Um, no, I think that there are more things in a similar vein to City Static that I want to keep exploring. So,
Great.
I sort of, it's like I've done other albums with other musicians, and I'm like, oh, I can do all these things, or, like, oh, how big of a sound do I want to get, and, I spend so much of my time just alone playing the most spaced out guitar. And it's like, well, why wouldn't I keep doing that? Just another round. So, I'm really pretty close to doing another album. It's feels like it's,
I'm really
mostly
happy to hear that
formed.
because I really love that record. Let me ask you this. For people like me who are, I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable with silence, but I read this thing a long time ago. I was reading something because I've been studying self-help because Lord knows I need it for quite some time. Um, and I remember reading something about a guy who, what is that called when you go in like a hot tub? That's what it is. It's a hot tub. So it's this guy went into a
What's
hot
it
tub.
called? It's a
It's a hot tub, yeah. And he
Okay.
was saying how very few people go to a hot tub alone because they're uncomfortable with being
Mm,
alone with that silence. And I'm one like I I'd go with a book, I'd go with
yeah.
a cigar, but I wouldn't just go alone. I'd go fishing alone because I'm doing something.
Right.
But I need to be occupied somehow. Now I do meditate, not very long, and
Yeah.
I get a lot out of that, even for the short meditations I do. But but obviously you've really benefited and you feel comfortable. So what do you say to someone like me? Like what would um I don't know, just give me some advice on this. And just maybe a couple of people listen that are similar, like that that aren't as comfortable with silence or alone and silent, you know?
Yeah, man, it's like for me, it's like what it's all about. And I understand that it's like, yeah, maybe just like set a small goal. Like maybe next time you're in a hot tub, be like, I'm gonna go and
I don't
just
I don't go to
get in
hot
the hot
tubs.
tub without
I don't
anything. It's so funny. So this last birthday, one of my friends gave me a gift certificate for a sensory deprivation tank, a float. Have
Holy
you heard of
shit.
that?
That is that the one you go in there, it's completely dark and yeah, I would wig out. I no, that's wild. But you probably love it.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so funny because when I first heard about these things, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that sounds like a nightmare. Um, and then I was like, oh, whoa. Like, I
How long
love it. And
how long did you go in there for?
90 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would wig the fuck out, to be honest with you. I would be mental. Wow.
Well, I totally was the first time I did it. I learned so much by my first, and it's like there's lights. You can leave the lights on if you need. But even still, to just sit there floating in salt water
Yeah, that's
by yourself sounds like hell to so many people. So
yeah. What a business.
I know.
Imagine like, 50 years ago you told someone, I'm gonna put a sensory deprivation tank business together.
I know.
Wait a minute. You mean you're gonna get people to pay you to be completely isolated and floating in heavy salt water? Oh yeah. And they're gonna pay me a lot of money because it's a
Oh
privilege.
yeah.
Wow,
But
imagine
I
that.
mean, it's like I don't know. Like I've done some like, I don't know if you get massages or have
Yeah,
gotten acupuncture, like any sort
yeah,
of other
I
sort of
have.
ideas of treating things. And
Definitely.
like I did study Alexander technique for a long time, and just like, just paying attention to my body and my awareness and all of those things. And it's like floating lets you like release all the tension in your body. And then you recognize like how insane you are in your head, like how noisy this can be and
Yeah.
how much that determines your reality. So,
Yes. So, okay, let me just process that for a minute. So having that silence brought all that stuff out. So I'm trying to think. Yeah. Okay, I get you. I guess, how do I get that information? Reading, usually, like reading about stuff like that. I'm able to identify it.
yeah, I think like, yeah, you know, did you ever read a book called The Untethered Soul?
No, but it sounds great.
So yeah, you were talking, you're into the self-help and just thinking about all these things. And I read that book a couple months ago, and, you know, I love reading stuff like this. And, you know, it's this guy talking about recognizing how much chatter there is in your
Chatter. Yeah.
head. And so, and I think like anything that, you know, so if you say, oh, I read to do that. And it's like, yeah, like sometimes you have to read to get to those thoughts, like to sort of navigate you to that area of thinking. And then like, and then maybe put your book down and then be like, oh, you know, like, then you have to think about like, well, that's what I do.
Yeah.
If I read something super intense, and I'm like, whoa, I got to think about that for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm saying.
So, yeah.
You know what I do though? Sometimes when I have these weird tiny voices, this sounds weird. I talk back, not back to like I talk to myself. Like if I get self-doubt, I talk out loud to myself. Like, hey, it's like talking myself off the ledge, you know? And sometimes it'll be funny because I'll be in the shower doing that. And my wife will come, she goes, who are you talking to? Because I'm in the shower and there's nobody in there, presumably. And I'm like, oh, just me. I guess she's used to that now. Or she'd come walking by my office and poke her head in, who are you talking to? But I talk to myself. Well, I find that really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are going to either think we're really enlightened or really crazy after they listen to this.
I know. I hope it's all of the above.
I hope it's all the above. Yes, I agree with you. So I want to go back to City Static. One thing and this is why I did listen to it so many times, it had a great ability to take me away. And it was really nice. And I was curious, like, what was the backstory to some of that stuff? Because you have the songs, like some of the songs are called Static 1, Static 2, Static 3, Static 1.2. So I don't know if that was cryptic or you just messing around or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, the static was just so.
Oh, the static was the noise.
Yeah. And also the title City Static for me meant it, you know, static has two meanings. It was like, I felt like unable to move out of the city. Like I wanted to move, but I didn't know how to do it, you know, like where to go. And also static, meaning there's noise all the time in the city.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the dual meanings of that album title. And then, yeah. And so like, I just called it City Static, and, you know, people are like, oh, you have to title an album after a song. And I had no song called City Static. It's just like this thing that I had been thinking about. And so then with all those interludes that I ended up calling Static, yeah, I wrote those, and I was like, I don't even know what these are. These are just like pools of sound that are, you know, floating around that, you know, they weren't like nameable things to me, really. So
the instrumental songs are hard in general.
Yeah.
To name.
And so then with the way that album worked out, I just ended up, I was like, I'm going to call them Static. And then I numbered them 1, 2, and 3. And then 1.2 is the same one as like I made the album start and end with the same interlude. But the second one is, I actually played the second one in a different tuning, but it's the same thing. But it's like a nerdy nod. Just so
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Have you thought about like maybe working or looking to do soundtrack work? I mean, this is just just a great, I mean, it's one of the best soundtracks that's not a soundtrack that I've ever heard.
Um, I like that. A soundtrack that's not a soundtrack. I've, you know, I, it's funny. Like yes, I've thought about it, but it's one of those things that I don't know. I don't know how to go
Do it.
about doing it. And, and
Well, let's put it out there right now. If you are looking for
yeah.
soundtracks, listen to City Static by Jamie Stillway. And if you want to contact her to work with her, I mean, this is just a really great, just a fantastic record, and you could just fit it into anything in your life, I think. So there we go. We put it out into the universe.
Okay, my phone's going to start ringing off the hook any minute now.
It
Hold
might
on.
ring
Let's
now.
see. Is it ringing
And
now?
the show hasn't even aired yet. That's how powerful we are today. That's how enlightened we are right now, Jamie. No, seriously, it's great. I'd love to go to a movie and hear that. It would be like awesome. That's great stuff.
Yeah, that would be, I do think that at some point that will come back around, like, because I did, I studied film. That's what I went to college for, even though I think when you're young and you make a decision to go to college for something, you don't really have the full information that you need for what you're going to end up doing with your life. But I'm still, like going to see movies, and I'm always paying attention to the soundtrack and the noise, just sound design of a movie. So
yeah. What did you like about movies that made you pursue that initially?
I have no idea. I think I just like to say the word cinematography when I was 18.
I get it.
And it's not even like I can think of like when I was in high school thinking like, oh, I loved the work of so-and-so or this. I just think that it just, I don't know.
Seemed like it was seemed like you'd like
it. Just, it just seemed like something that was, well, I guess it's because also, like I was raised in like when the first camcorder, like, you hooked up a VCR to the big camera, like that was when I was, like 7 or 8. And so like would always make stupid movies. And I was like, well, that means I'm going to be a filmmaker. And now you think about it, it's like everybody has a camera in their pocket,
in their
all
phone.
the time.
I know, it's just different world.
So, yeah, I think someday it will probably, and it'll work itself back in there.
It's interesting because I grew up in New York City, and there's nothing but noise there. I mean, like 24/7 noise.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the absence of that now. And I'm often interviewing somebody that's in New York, that's home.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear the police sirens and the trucks and all the bullshit. And it's really irritating. Not irritating, but it's just like, it makes me grateful I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Like in Portland, I used to think Portland has changed a lot, I'm sure, as all places have.
Sure.
But when I first moved to Portland, it felt a lot quieter. It felt like a smaller city. And then, it got super popular and it started to get really crowded and traffic got really bad and just like all these things. And then also, people started remodeling their basements and everybody got a radon fan put in outside their home. So it's like this fan that runs constantly. So they've determined like to keep the radon levels
underground.
Yeah. And since everybody's now turning their basements into a livable space, everybody's getting these like fans that run all the time put outside their house. And so at my house in Portland, the neighbors, the house had flipped and they had remodeled the basement and they put a radon fan in like when it's so funny because I think I must have been out of town like the day they installed it or something. And then like I was one night sitting there in the summer and it's just like when you get really quiet and then you recognize how noisy everything is. And I was like, oh my God, this fan is going to be on all the time,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like,
horrible.
There's limits about how far it can be from the property line, but whatever. It's like you can still that's the kind of stuff like I'm super sensitive to buzzes or noises that just don't stop. That's kind of how That's, that really makes me go crazy.
I'm like that too, believe it or not. I guess I was just desensitized to the stuff in New York because you have no choice. It's like your environment. That's your living. It's like
Right.
birds or sunshine in Florida. That's your
Yeah.
environment. You got no
Yeah.
choice. But I'm super sensitive to that because, yeah, I'll just ask my wife to turn something down. She goes, I know. She just knows. It's like it's like I'm literally allergic to shit like that, to noise or
Yeah.
just to stuff I don't want to hear, really.
And I think probably more of us, we're probably all really like that. And we're just all become so desensitized to it. And so then we're just, noise, I think, is comforting and keeps us distracted and, sort of.
Well, I think that there's like four primary means of, or three primary means of, you're either an auditory, which obviously means you process, you process best by hearing and listening. You're a
Yeah.
visual, and which you like to see things, or you're what they call a kinesthetic, which is you like to feel.
Yeah.
And everybody tends to have, you may have two, but you have primary. So obviously I think if you're an auditory, and when you hear these noises, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So what are you what's going to happen over the next few years? What are some of your things you're looking forward to now that you had the sort of experiencing the success of this great record?
Success. Well, my phone, it doesn't stop ringing.
No, but you did something really authentic that obviously resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just, it's like, yeah, it's a funny thing to sort of, just be like, okay, my life is guitar, and I've been doing it this long and I've made it. And then sort of, I feel like in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, it's almost like the point, you pass a point and you're like, whoa, should I keep doing this? Or should I try, is this working? Or do I need to rethink what I'm doing with my life? And I think now I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm doing, and I love it, and I'm happy, and
Well,
I'm
for whatever
just,
it's worth, I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead there.
I'm just excited to just keep playing guitar and explore silence and music, and just, for me, music is a super powerful thing. And even if I wasn't sort of trying to, quote, make a living from it, it's something I'm sure, still be enthralled with. And so,
Don't you find guitar is like a super powerful thing too sometimes?
mm-hmm.
Like when I'm practicing regularly, and I haven't been
Yeah.
playing real long, so my level is much lower than like probably 100% of the people I talk to. But if I've been practicing regularly, I feel like after day 2 or 3, even, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little superpower. Steve Vai said it. He goes, I interviewed him. He goes, guitar was like my little secret. And
Yeah.
I feel like that. It's really funny. It's like a magic trick sort of, or something.
Everyone loves guitar.
Everyone loves guitar. Right on. No, but in all fairness, you got pretty heavy guys recommended you to me, Mark and Eric. So, I mean, and it's always this way. Others' perception of your skill sets are generally much higher than your own perception, if you're the kind of person that's tough on yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think I talk to a lot of musicians, and I think creatives in general tend to have imposter syndrome, because I've had a lot of guitar players saying, man, I hope I don't get outed or something, that I'm just an average guitar player. There's a lot of people, versions of that. Other people are better than me, stuff like that. Or this other person can do the gig just as easily as I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's common for creatives.
This last year, I had a guitar built for me,
Good for you.
Super fancy, high-end arch top. I don't know if we talked about this at the NAMM show,
What'd you get?
So there's this young builder outside Santa Rosa. Her name is Megan Wells. If you ever have guitar builders on the show, you should definitely give her a call.
Can I tell you
She's
something
amazing.
funny?
What?
We don't have commercial entities on here now because we take advertising.
Yeah.
I reached out to her probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I never heard back, but yeah, I know who she is. Yeah. There's a lot of people have told me she's really, really good.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we met at a guitar show outside Seattle, the LeConner show. Actually, I first met her at NAMM. Anyway, long story short, I had her build me a guitar, and when I got the guitar, I was just dumbstruck and floored and had waves of imposter syndrome because it's the most amazing guitar that I've ever had, and I spent more money than I've ever spent on this guitar, and I was just like, I would weep every morning. I would open the case because I was like, oh my God, I don't deserve this. I mean, why did I do this? Why did I get the guitar of this level? Like, I can't play this thing.
Do you have it there? Is it handy?
I don't have it here. No.
Okay.
So I should have brought it, but it's it's an amazing guitar, and I feel like,
describe it. Like you said, it's an arch top. So it's an electric arch top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So she designs it, it could be acoustic or electric, but I'm definitely taking it to electric town. So it's a small body, 15 inch at the lower bout arch top. And they're just, her work is so beautiful that I just, I see a lot of hand-built guitars at all these shows I go to, and there was something about her stuff where she binds her F-holes with mahogany, and it's just like her attention to detail. It's like every little thing is perfect, and it's so.
That's cool.
It's just like, it's a piece of art, but it's also like a tool for me. So, I had to get over like that sort of.
So do you feel deserving of that now?
Yes.
Good,
I'm like, and I feel like she built me I feel like she built me the exact guitar that I needed. And like, the guitar wouldn't have happened if I didn't make City Static, and it's like, I made City Static because I turned 40 and I bought a Telecaster, and was what I used on that. And then and so anyway, it's so funny, like when you recognize you can connect all the things in your life, and so then
it's a lot of fun connecting the dots. The only problem with that is you got to wait till later to connect the dots.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get we need the manual to say, oh, this is where we go next. That would be so much easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
For me, it would be.
Exactly. Totally. Because you get to those moments, like, you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Right. Or why is this happening? And then you're like 3 years down the road, you're like, oh man, if that hadn't happened, I never would have done this, or I wouldn't have connected with this person, or I wouldn't have met or broke up with that person. My life is better now, whatever, Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it shaped like what is that arch top shaped like? Is it shaped like I mean, for example, is it shaped like this? This is kind of like a Gibson.
Yeah, it's small, it's smaller than that, and it's got I forget my terms of cutaways, but it's got a more rounded cutaway than that. Like,
okay.
One's Venetian or one's Florentine, or something like that. I don't know. People are gonna listen and be like, I can't believe you don't know that.
Well, I've never even heard of that, but I mean, I understand. So it's just a rounded cutaway instead of a sharp cutaway.
Here, I'm just going to make you look at a photo on my phone.
There you go. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's like an ES-175 with a rounded cutaway. But it's really pretty. The F-holes are gorgeous. Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Oh,
Is that ebony fretboard or rosewood?
Yeah, ebony.
Beautiful. Really, real interesting color. Excuse me, interesting color because it's really dark stained.
Oh,
but it's not, but it's color. It's, the color's still there. It's not like it's so dark you can't see it or anything.
Oh man. Yeah, it is like, so, I mean, I'm just, while I've got you on the phone, there's another.
Yeah, that's great. That's it's red.
Yeah, it's sort of this, it's gorgeous.
Man, that's a beautiful guitar. I'm glad you deserve that for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. So that happened in the last year, and I was like, whoa.
Good for you.
Anyway. That definitely brought up some imposter syndrome for me, but I was like, Jamie, course you deserve this guitar. And now it feels like the greatest, I feel it feels like Megan built me the exact guitar that I needed to have. So
that's awesome. What made you pick a Telly? Like, did you have an electric before that?
Yeah, well, I have gone through various stages of having electric guitars in my life. Like I had a Strat in high school and then I sold it. And then I had I did have an ES-175 for a
Did you
hot
really?
minute. Yeah. And then I was like, I don't know why I wanted a Telecaster. And then a couple of years ago, I like posted on Facebook, like, does anybody have a Telecaster with a maple fingerboard that I can borrow for a little while? And somebody did, like a G&L Telly, and I borrowed that for like a year and a half. And I actually wrote some of the songs on City Static on that borrowed guitar. And then I was like, I'm going to buy one. And then a friend was selling his Telly, and it just was like super cool looking. So I am not without vanity. And it was like seafoam pearl, and it had humbuckers. And I was like, hey, that's a cool guitar and a maple fingerboard. So yeah.
So you have
and
two
now
humbucker.
I never play it.
That's funny. Do you play with a pick electric, or do you play with your fingers?
I play fingerstyle.
That's so cool, man.
And
that is
so,
really
yeah.
cool.
And I, like doing City Static, I was actually pretty nervous because I was like, man, I don't know, fingerstyle guitar on an electric. Ooh, we'll see how this goes. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love it so much. I just love what an electric guitar can do for sustain, really. And just so.
What effects did you use most on that record?
Delay. And then a volume pedal for all the interludes. It was
All
just volume pedal and delay. Yeah.
Very cool. Low points. What are some low points or dark periods you had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
I'm going to tell the story of when I had, this was like I mentioned earlier, like 5 years ago, I sort of was at a point where I was like, should I keep doing this? And it's when I got a big bump on my thumb, on my right hand thumb, like a huge thing right above my knuckle. And I went to the doctor and I didn't know what it was, and it hurt, and I could barely put it, like, I don't always, again, play with finger picks, but I couldn't put a thumb pick on, and it hurt. And I went to the doctor and she was like, oh, that's arthritis. You're going to have it in all your fingers soon, just super flippant. And also this, like, just
kind of knee-jerk reaction to, like, without doing any kind of due diligence, no?
Right. And then also for me, like, kind of like the most terrifying thing you could possibly be told as a fingerstyle guitar player. And so, like, that sent me off the deep end. And I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I felt like, I recognize, like, over the years, as you get to know who you are, I'm like, I'm pretty quiet. I don't like going out. I don't tour a lot. It's like, I don't like large crowds, like all these things. And I'm like, am I doing the right thing? And then, just like in our society, like the money that you make, or like how much money you make. And I was like, oh, what if I can't, if I can't move my fingers and I have arthritis, like, oh geez, I need to start doing something else. And I was just like,
So you totally went into freak out mode
in a way that I have never gone into freak out mode. And it was almost like I felt like I had been walking on this like music path in my life with like my head down, my blinders on. And then like I looked up and I was like, wow, I'm almost 40. And like, oh, it felt like that thing of like, there's no turning back, or is there, or should I change what I'm doing now? I really hated that time.
So what was it?
Well, then, so it ended up being a cyst in my thumb that just went away. Like I went to this other doctor, this hand doctor, and he was a real jerk, and he was like, yeah, we can, and it was like, I don't know. I just was like, it's so weird, like what that brought up. Cause I had it for like 4 months probably, and and long enough to really have an existential crisis. Oh,
And it
the
was
thumb in
hurting. It was
question.
obviously hurting. You obviously had pain at that point.
Yeah.
So he told you it was a cyst, but he was just a jerk about it?
He was a jerk about it, and he was like, yeah, we can cut it out, but you probably get it again. And I was like, man, I don't want to have hand surgery. And like, I remember leaving that day also feeling particularly like, and then it's so funny. It's like, I can't even remember the day that it just like how it just went away. It's almost like, did that even happen?
So let me ask you this. Like when things like that happen to me, I always say any kind of negative stuff, I always say, what can I get out of this? Like, why did this happen beyond there's no reason why it happened? But I try to say, okay, what's the takeaway from me? Because if I get a takeaway, then I don't feel like a victim, if that makes sense. And I feel like, okay, I got something out of this. That's great.
Right. Yeah.
What was the takeaway for you out of that?
I guess probably just like, man, let me think about this for a second before I blurt out an answer. Well, I think it made me distrust the medical establishment a little bit. That's one takeaway.
You know what? I don't understand that, because the guy sees that you're a guitar player. He's reading your chart in theory. Obviously, you didn't.
Yeah.
But you think like it wouldn't have taken much to like inject, I don't know, 8 seconds of empathy in there. Like, hey, I know you play guitar and you're probably really nervous.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at a few different scenarios here.
Yeah.
And none of which I'm going to predict, none of which I have any idea how this is going to play out.
Yeah.
That would have been like, I just don't understand. It doesn't take I mean, you don't have to be like Mother Teresa just to be kind of like basic, nice,
Yeah.
I don't really get that.
Yeah. So I think just also like it sort of just made me realize how much I love playing guitar and like
That's good.
what it, like, and what a gift it is to be healthy presently and being able to do it now and recognize like, man, someday I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, that's just a fact that like it is going to change. Well, I mean, I'm going to die. And
you might die at 42, 43, and then it won't have been, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Then you did it right to the end.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I think like that, and then just it's so funny. It was such it's like I've never had anything like that happen where it was like with music where I was like, wow, like it really just derailed me for a little bit. So,
but after that, did it give you some sense of, what? I know I'm like in my place now. I know I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And then now I'm like, oh, I'm 100% like, this is what I do. And and I love it. And I'm happy. Good. And like, that's like a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. Being happy,
I think,
and
being happy, it's like,
being happy is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That was cool of you. And I'm glad that it was nothing and your hands are fully functioning.
And then it's how, with all of my just various guitar playing friends, we've all had things happen where like different people are like, oh man, I'm having arthritis, or like I'm having tendonitis. And you recognize like it's a terrifying thing when it happens. And so it's also not that I think I'm generally a pretty empathetic person, but now when my guitar playing friends talk about hand stuff, I'm like, oh
yeah, you've been there,
man. Yeah, it's terrifying. So
I'm glad that worked out for you.
Me too.
Tell me, so is that Megan Wells guitar? Is that your go-to guitar, or what's your go-to?
Yeah, so that is indeed for like the electric stuff, which is, as we talked about, I like to play a lot of different stuff. Mm-hmm. So I also have, I have a Santa Cruz that I play in my duo with Eric, an OMPW, but I was actually just in Santa Cruz a week ago ordering a new guitar.
You posted that on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yep.
I was happy for
So
you.
I think my next go-to hasn't been built yet, but it will be here soon.
Your Santa Cruz, very cool.
Yeah. So I have a single O, I have this small
Look at
body
you.
German guitar.
You only play custom guitars now. You've become a.
I know, isn't it funny?
Yeah, good for you.
That German guitar is a fun story. It's like I went to Germany when I was, 26 around that time, and I met the people who run that company, and they were like, would you like to have some kind of endorsement? Stevens Custom Guitars.
Okay.
And I was young, and they were like, oh, we will send you a guitar. Pick any guitar you want in the shop. And me being eternally self-deprecating and not believing anything, that's good going to happen. And anyway, so they did. They ended up mailing me a guitar a year later to the day that I left on that trip. And
right.
I don't have a guitar here either. But so that's, sometimes when I think like, am I doing the right thing just with guitar and like living my life this way? Sometimes I play that guitar and I'm like, Jamie, for God's sake, somebody made you this guitar. Like when you were just starting, like, come on.
Good that you talk to yourself. How come you're like pessimistic by nature? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good one. Everything, it's like all the past experiences in my life, and like maybe also just genetic disposition towards pessimism.
Sure.
So
there's this book, I've never read it, but it's supposed to be real good. It's called Learned Optimism. It's a pretty famous book. You ever heard that?
Mm-mm.
It's called Learned Optimism. I don't even know. I remember it's by Martin Seligman. He's a psychologist or a social worker or something. It's a very famous. I have it here. I've never read it, but it's Learned Optimism.
Yeah, I should.
Eternal pessimist. I mean, just throwing it out there.
Well, it's true, and and I think that sounds like a book that I should probably take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, if it's accurate, if the title is accurate, it sounds like a good book that we should all take a look at.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's so funny. I think a lot of us have that sort of. We're all so hard on ourselves, and I don't. I think it's.
I don't think it's all of us. I think that there's certain, from my observation, and I'm like not a shrink. I don't play one on TV, but I have interviewed a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
And I've always spent a good part of my life trying to understand how people and why people say and do things, primarily so I would understand how to react to that in communication with them.
Yeah.
I think it seems like there's two reasons people are pessimistic. One is you had a shitty childhood. It's kind of hard to be an optimist. Just reality. You got to do a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is just some people are insecure about themselves, and maybe there's a reason, maybe there's not. I think a lot of people that worry, some people prone to worrying a lot. My wife's like that. She tends to worry about things. And that those people tend to be a little, at times, pessimistic as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't know that it's because I've met a lot of other people that have had really good childhoods, and there's not an ounce of pessimism in them. The way they look at the world through just different sets of glasses than people who, and I'm not saying you had a bad childhood or not, but I'm just saying that that's one of the things I've noticed. When you had a lot of love and stability and like encouragement and confidence pushed in you, you tend to look at the world differently than if you had hardship.
Yeah.
You just have a guy who comes to mind is Mike Keneally. Do you know Mike? He's out west. He plays with Joe Satriani.
Okay. Yeah.
He played with Frank Zappa before. He's a good guy, but his like outlook on things is just like he wrote one of his albums is called "The Universe Will Provide." Like if you're a pessimist, that's not going to be the title of your record.
Right. Yeah, no kidding.
It's going to be like "The Universe Will Kick Your Ass."
Totally. The universe is half empty.
Yeah. So that's just what I've noticed. So just trying to figure it out along the way for myself, like everybody else. Tell me now I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. So this is going to make you really uncomfortable. Oh no, tell me first, top 3 desert island discs.
Oh man, I briefly read those questions that you sent me, and I was like, man, that's one I'm like not even going to be able to answer because I love silence so much. You know, it's like I don't listen to a lot of music currently.
Well, if you don't, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. This guy wrote me, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. He's a listener for a while, and he goes, I love how your guests freely discuss addiction, sobriety, dysfunctional upbringing, struggles, and every one of them writhes in agony when you ask them to name their top 3 records.
Great. Then I'm things are going as planned.
Yeah, as planned.
I'm right on track.
Excuse me, you're right on track. And I never thought about that, but it's so true.
Yeah, man, that's an impossible question.
All right, then tell me instead. This will be really tough. This is going to be like the toughest question. What do you like most about yourself?
That's a hard one. I'm like, I just, wow. My ability to stay in the present moment.
That's a good answer.
I've been really working on that these last couple of years. And I think that.
Me too.
That is really something that just, I think is a good skill to have.
You know what? For me, I found that's the best way to get rid of worry and anxiety.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And then I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. And for me, right. Like, I think since I quit drinking and I'm super just clear in my mind, I can feel when I go back in time, it's like, you like that saying, like, depression is being stuck in the past and anxiety is being stuck in the future. And it's like, wow, yeah, you can really feel that, just, watching my own thoughts and where I'm feeling, it's like, if I'm thinking about just various previous points in my life, it's like, whoa, you get so, especially if it's winter in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot, and it's cloudy.
It's really dark there, isn't it?
And you haven't seen the sun in like 3 months.
Wow. You know what's funny? Living here in Florida, I guess I sort of take the sun for granted. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, we went to England because my wife's from there, went to go visit her family. It was black for a week and a half. I was dying to see the sun. I couldn't believe how much of a change in mood that made. I've never, because I hadn't had to think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's huge, man. Seeing the sun every day makes you feel great.
Oh yeah. So it just, the sun is out today and it started finally getting sunny here. And I'm like, wow, I feel my spirits lift so much. And it's like, I don't know how I make it through the winter here, but I think it also influences my music.
Silence. Mm-hmm. Silence over sunlight is more important to you, obviously. Gotta do what's important. Yeah.
I like it.
What makes you happy?
Silence over sunlight.
That was a layup for you.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Who's had the biggest influence on you musically and also personally?
Wow. Well, like, I'm going to say, doesn't have to be the same person, I imagine.
No, I
right?
wou't imagine it
It's
would
like,
be.
so years ago, I
Unless
was
your
super,
dad is John Lennon or something like that.
right.
Yeah.
um, like, for a while, I was super inspired by the work of Bela Fleck, because I was like, he can play everything.
Yeah.
And he appears to be unendingly musically curious, which to me is like, oh, that's so cool. And that's just, I haven't listened to any of his stuff in years. So I'm like, now I'm like, I don't know what he's up to now. But for
you
a
don't
while,
listen
that
to anything.
We know. I
that.
currently don't have,
Don't have what?
In my cabin, I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't have
internet. Are you serious?
So,
how are you on talking to me?
I'm at a studio where I do my FaceTime lessons.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's wild. You have no Wi-Fi, no TV, I'm sure.
No TV.
Wow, you really are into silence. Wow. That's commitment.
Yeah.
No, seriously, some people say they're into something, but then, they're into it meaning like in between surfing the web, they, build model trains or something. That's really cool. Wow, that's serious commitment. So Bela Fleck or Bela Fleck?
So yeah. And then just in terms of also current music inspiration. So I take guitar lessons super infrequently from Mark Goldenberg.
Oh, cool.
And he is super fun to sort of just talk about guitar with. And also I listened to his interview you did with him, and he was talking about his meditation and practice and always learning. And so, and just watching him when he plays guitar, he's
such a good player, man.
Yeah. And he's and it's so funny. He's so humble, and he's worked with everybody. And
he is humble, but you know what? I find that most successful people are in any endeavor, business or music. Most of them are. What I actually find, to be more specific, the people who have gotten to where they are 100% by themselves are almost 100% humble, like high 90s.
Yeah.
You have a few strays that are just like, whatever. But but I find the people who were given stuff, like success was given to them, that's where they're not all arrogant or not humble, but that's where's a much higher percentage of arrogance. That's been my observation. I don't know why. Maybe because, well, I do know why. When you've had to work for something, you're like, you realize how fragile it is, and not to be religious, because I don't mean this in a religious way, but by the grace of God, I still have it, and nothing, I haven't gotten sick. I haven't, you just realize how fragile this stuff is. And a lot of it is just, you put your head down and you got to keep working. And, almost nobody takes it for granted that's done it on their own. But that's what I find anyway. But yeah, he's incredibly humble. Eric, all those guys are really nice.
It's got to be so fun. Like, you must love your new job of interviewing guitar players.
I do. I really do. I was out and someone said, "What do you do?" I said, "I host a podcast." Like, oh my God, that is so cool. I'm like, and I didn't think about it. And I said, yeah, it is really cool, I guess. Because I talk to really nice people. What I love is musicians are so open.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time with people that are not.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand bullshit. That's like a character flaw of mine. But I'm okay with it. And I don't want to change it because I like that lack of tolerance for bullshit. And that's what I like. And it's all, and it's all, so to me, if someone's being sincere, it's positive. So I'm like basically in a positive zone, like 5 times a week, let's say. That's what I like about it. And everybody's really cool and it's nice. And then we're talking about guitar and music. I mean, it's like, how cool is that? So, but yeah, I dig it. It's really funny. My kids, when my daughter will have friends over, my sons are gone, they're older, but my daughter's still home for a little while longer. She's 20 and she'll bring friends over. She goes, when she brings her friend over or friend, she'll say, "Hey, this is my dad. He hosts a really cool guitar podcast." And then she gives him a card. When a friend comes over, and I'm like, Sam, I don't know that, but it's really nice to see that, it's nice to feel support from people that care about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's what I like, when I was a financial planner, then nobody did that. Hey, my dad's a financial planner. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. So personally, who's been the biggest influence on you?
Ooh. Man, that's a tough
I
question.
knew you weren't going to answer that one. I knew
Yeah.
it.
You saw that one coming.
Yeah, I had a couple others I was going to ask you, but I knew you weren't going to answer those. So this was the most likely of the least likely questions you're not going to answer.
Man, you've
So
already sussed it out.
yeah, of course. Well, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. So I have to suss it out. You know.
That's
All
an
right.
impossible question.
All right. Tell me any hobbies outside of music and silence?
Besides
Isn't that
silence,
funny that your hobbies are music and silence? Well, your hobby is, and your vocation is music, but your other hobby is silence. You're a complex ball of things there, man. Let me tell you.
I know, man. It's like, seriously, like I just sit, I'm like, well,
I would need about a month to unravel this. Let me tell you. And a lot of alcohol. I'm sorry, you may not need it, but I would. What are your hobbies
like,
outside of music?
I was sitting in the saltwater tank in the dark, not talking for 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Yeah. Just
I
being
would
outside, like just.
I would so freak out. I would think I'm in a coffin. Like, you see they bury people in coffins. I'd be so mental.
I tell you, I thought I did it too. And then you realize, like, basically, you're basically in a saltwater containment unit in your body. So,
yeah, that wouldn't work.
Might as well just freak out anyway,
I give you credit, man. I definitely couldn't have done that. Holy shit, I'd be so mental. I'd be like, it would look like the Incredible Hulk in there. Like I'd start punching the side. I couldn't handle that. Yeah, I would, all right. So being outdoors.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, I was like, man,
in the
crazy
silence,
to think I'm the most boring person. I'm like, I just like being quiet. I like being away from people, being outside.
Imagine your dating profile. Oh, this one's awesome. She's quiet and she doesn't like people and she lives in a really remote place. Holy shit. Give me her number now. We have to work on this.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hey, I could give you more generic. I'm like, I like to cook,
Do you? That's the number one. That's the number one hobby for musicians.
Yeah, I actually love to cook, but currently in my current place, it's like, it's a limited cooking scenario. So I don't.
What do you like cooking?
I just like making up, reading recipes and thinking, hey, that sounds interesting. And then going to the store and buying it and spending a bunch of money and then making something for friends
that's cool.
You might never make again, but it's so fun. And it's kind of stressful because you've never cooked it, but like,
that's cool.
That's fun. It's like,
yeah, but you don't tell them that. You say, oh, this is my famous,
Yeah, this is my famous that I've never made before.
That's the way to do it. That's how you roll with that. I told my wife a few weeks, I said, babe, I think I could see myself enjoying cooking. She goes, you have to actually get in the kitchen to do that.
Ooh.
I said, point well taken. I said, maybe I wouldn't enjoy it as much. I don't know. It seems like it'd be something fun, but who knows?
Yeah, right. I love eating. I love food. I love, it's like, I just love the things that like make life enjoyable and fun. And for me, it's
food
silence and music and food.
Music, food, and silence. I like music, food, and silence. Yeah. How do you unwind that?
Yeah.
I like music, food, and silence. So 2 more questions. This one's going to be a little tough. The next one will be tough, but you'll answer it. Anything you wish you did differently or anything you regret not doing?
Yeah, that's a funny one. I'm not, I don't like to think that I'm a super regretful person, or that
Mhm.
I look back and think like, oh, I should have done that. Or, sometimes I wish, like, instead of going right to college, I had done something more adventurous and just taken time, because I feel like I sort of had no choice. I had to go to college and it wasn't a super great time. And I sort of fumbled and fought my way out of it and made it out. And it's like, man, I could have done
Those are
something that
free,
might
and those are free years, kind of like
totally,
you get to
yeah.
waste as many of those as you want. There's no penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sort of now it's like, oh, you start to recognize it's just funny. Getting older is
Yeah.
funny.
And last question is, what's been the biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years? And how much of that was intentional and how much of that was from just natural age?
Well, I mean, I don't want to sound heavy handed, but I think quitting drinking has changed me quite a bit.
Absolutely.
I think I think I've always been the same person, but I think it gave me the freedom to uh, actually be comfortable with, you know,
With you.
with me. Yeah. And like knowing like my limits with people, and just, yeah, I think it's sort of, yeah, just let the true me, which is pretty introverted and pretty quiet. And, I love people. The people that I love people. I think I'm like you. It's like I love open-hearted people, and I
Yeah.
will talk to them all day. And the minute you're like fake or just, it's like, forget it.
Oh, it's instant delete.
I have no time. I don't like, no.
Right. I know.
And I think that just like being aware of that and just sort of recognizing, sort of people along the way, the journey of life, who are also super just bright and present and open-hearted is is fun. And it's like, and that is sort of what has bubbled up. And just also for me, like recognizing like, man, I'm not, it's like just a super quiet person, and I suck at self-promotion and all of this that you're supposed to be good at as a
Well,
musician, or like,
musicians all are not really
yeah,
comfortable with self-promotion. I think creative
yeah,
people in general are just most of them are uncomfortable.
yeah. It's such an interesting thing where it's like you're supposed to, I don't know, be good at that. And
Well, I don't think you have a
yeah,
choice now. I don't even think you have to be good
right,
at it. You have to be consistent with it
yeah,
because there's nobody else to promote you nowadays.
right,
There's no record labels. So
yeah,
you've got to be doing the promotion. And you know who's good with that? Really good? Eric.
yeah,
He's really good. And he doesn't ever come across arrogant,
yeah,
remotely arrogant, because he's not. Self-aggrandizing, he's not. But
yeah,
he does a good job of being Eric, but he's visible. He does
yeah,
a good job of it, by the way. Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, listen, first of all, I want to thank you very much, because as introverted as you are, you did wonderful, and I really appreciate your time. And it was really nice talking with you. We learned a great deal. We learned that you like the outdoors, you like silence. I'll be silent. Notice how I was silent after I said silence, just to emphasize the silence. Music and food.
Yeah.
And congratulations for quitting drinking. That's a big one. And it seems like it was the right thing for you to do by every aspect of
Yeah.
what you've told me. So congratulations. Hey, I will look. When are you said you and Eric, your next record is going to be with Eric, or is it going to be something on your own before that, you think, or what?
Oh, they'll probably come out at similar times. I think Eric and I are going to record in the fall of this year, and I am probably going to do another solo album this year. So maybe
Electric?
early next year. Yeah,
Oh,
another
great.
electric album.
Well,
Yeah.
I will honestly 100% no bullshit be looking forward to it. I would love you to come back on the show and we can promote it and talk about it. And because I
Great.
really dug, your last record. Everybody, let me tell people where to find you. It's Jamie Stillway, and her website is jamiestillway.com. It's Jamie, Jamie, Stillway as it sounds. Man, do yourself a favor and listen to her last record, City Static. It's a wonderful record, man. It's really, really cool. And I would be hard pressed to think you can listen. I mean, honestly, there's 9 tracks on this record. All for me anyway, all 9 of them were 5 stars. I'd pop them up any single time. Really nice record. I was really happy. I text you like right after I listened to it because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what kind of music he did, and I was like, holy shit, that was great.
Yeah, now I like food, and you were like, if you were judging me on that salad that I ate at the NAMM show, you'd be like, oh no. She ate that bad salad. I don't know if she really likes food.
Food criteria is not usually one of the judging. I have some judgmental criteria. Food consumption is not. Well, like if you ate, like, I don't know, like bat wing or something, I might have been like, well, that's a little weird. But even that is I have a large leeway. I'm like just intuitive, man. I just feel the vibe, and I look for tells, like people have tells, like when they're bullshitting. And I don't look for them. I used to look for them. Now I'm just like aware of them, sort of, and you're very nice. So there's nothing negative, man, at all. You're great, honestly. And I'm really happy that things seem to be going well for you. And what's the next place you'll be moving to? What's the next adventure? Where will it be?
I don't think it's going to happen for a while. So
you're loving that little island there, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty great.
We went to this island off the coast of Seattle when we visited there about 11 years ago, I think. You had to take I'm sure you got to take one of those steamships. What do they call? Brain fart here. Steamship. What is it? Like a ferry.
Steamship.
A ferry. Steamship.
Yeah.
This is Britain in the 1400s.
Yeah.
It was a ferry. It was name some of those islands.
Did you go to? Were you about to say Bainbridge?
Yes, that was it. I couldn't think of it. Yeah,
I could see you were like,
yeah. We went over with just the whole family there, and so we're walking through this park. So 11 years ago, my daughter was 9, and I'd never seen this before. This guy, a dad with his maybe 7-year-old daughter. They had this giant inflated red ball. I mean, it was like the size, it was like literally is about 6 or 7 feet diameter, and it was so cool. Everybody, all my kids just went over there and played with him, and they were just jumping on this. And it wasn't like it was made out of cloth. It wasn't like a beach ball. So you could jump on it. It was really cool. And we have such great memories from that. That was so much fun. It was really pretty. I've never been to that part of the country, and it was Pacific Northwest, man. That was like God, like spent time on that personally, crafting that whole place. It was just so beautiful, man. I really dug that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's like I got in my car to drive over here, and I was like, oh, there's a bald eagle circling. I was just watching that soar overhead over my house. Get in my car, and come over here, and it's just like. So it's beautiful.
Well, enjoy it. And I will look forward to your next record, solo and with Eric. Go to Jamie's website and check her out, jamiestillway.com. She's also on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Also, pay attention close to this. Lessons. Jamie actually gives lessons, does a lot of Skype lessons on acoustic or electric. So check out some of her music. If you like what she's doing, you want to take a lesson from her, go to jamiestillway.com and go to the contact tab. Let her know. Give her some information like, I play electric, I play acoustic. This is what I'm looking for, or this is what I like about your music and why I think you could help me, or here's what I'm struggling with and I think you'd be the good person to help me, so she could at least respond appropriately. And that's it. Anything else I missed?
No.
Well, thank you for everything.
I hope to talk to you again soon. Maybe Eric and I can come and talk
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love it. Honestly, I would love it. That'd be awesome. And next time we meet in person, there's no way I'm eating a crappy salad with you. We're going to eat something fun. And thank you for your time. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I hope you come back again with Eric and then with your own solo stuff.
Will
Hang on
do.
a second. Let me wrap this up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels with your friends. Please, first of all, thanks very much to Jamie Stillway, and please support her music. Go to jamiestillway.com. Listen to City Static. It's not a long record. It is 9 tracks, maybe probably longer than I'm thinking. It's 23 minutes. Wow. And if you are out there looking for someone to write you a really powerful, deep instrumental soundtrack, that call Jamie. She is your person, man. There is nothing finer than this. This is as good as it gets. And that's it. Most important, don't forget, and please remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice. Go play your guitar, right? Right on, right?
Yeah, man. I like this.
That's right, man. Happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice. Go play your guitar and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Jamie, thanks for everything. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.